They called me the family's biggest disappointment, the black sheep who threw away millions. But 3 years later, when they showed up at my door, broke and desperate, begging for help, they discovered the truth about that worthless stranger I helped. My name is Jayden, and for 28 years I lived in a golden cage. From the outside, everyone saw the perfect life: the mansion on the hill, the luxury cars, the family business empire that stretched across 3 states. But inside those marble halls, I was suffocating under the weight of expectations I could never meet. My father built his fortune by stepping on others, and my mother perfected the art of cold indifference disguised as elegance. My older brother Marcus inherited their ruthless business acumen, while my sister Victoria mastered their talent for manipulation. And then there was me, the disappointment, the one who'd rather feed the homeless than fire employees to boost profits. "You're too soft for this world, Jayden," my father would say, his voice dripping with disdain. "Compassion is weakness. Money is power. Learn that, or you'll never survive in our family business." Every family dinner was a battlefield where I'd argue about ethics while they discussed hostile takeovers like weekend plans. The breaking point came during Christmas dinner when I was 25. I'd donated my quarterly allowance to a children's hospital, and my father found out. His face turned red with rage as he gripped his wine glass so tightly I thought it might shatter. "You gave away our money to strangers," he roared. "Those ungrateful brats will be dead in a year anyway." The slap came so fast I didn't see it coming. The sting across my cheek silenced the entire dining room as my mother continued cutting her prime rib, unmoved. My siblings smirked behind their wine glasses. That night, I understood I wasn't just different. I was the enemy. 3 years later, everything changed when my grandfather died. He was the only one who understood me, who saw kindness as strength rather than weakness. In his will, he left me everything, $2.3 million that he'd kept separate from the family business. I remember sitting in that lawyer's office, watching my family's faces twist with shock and fury. They'd assumed the money would go to my father to strengthen their empire of greed. My father's hand slammed on the mahogany table so hard the lamp jumped. "This is ridiculous. He's not responsible enough for this kind of money." But the will was ironclad. Grandpa knew exactly what he was doing. For the first time in my life, I had power. Real power. Not the hollow influence that came from the family name, but the ability to make choices that mattered. And as I walked out of that office, my father's threats echoing behind me, I knew I wouldn't use this gift the way they wanted. I'd use it to prove that money could build bridges instead of walls, that wealth meant nothing if it didn't lift others up. I just had no idea how quickly my own family would try to tear me down for it. The inheritance in my hands felt like freedom, but it was actually the key to a cage I didn't even know existed. And when I finally used that key, it would cost me everything I thought I knew about family, loyalty, and love. The real question wasn't what I'd do with the money, it was whether I'd survive what came after. I met Sarah on a Tuesday that started like any other, but ended with my life imploding. She was sitting outside the coffee shop near downtown, holding a cardboard sign that read, "Anything helps, God bless." But it wasn't the sign that stopped me. It was the little girl beside her, maybe 6 years old, quietly coloring in a notebook while her mother tried to stay invisible. "Excuse me," I said, crouching down. Sarah's eyes were beautiful, but exhausted, the kind of tired that sleep couldn't fix. "What's your story?" Most people would have walked past, but Grandpa taught me that everyone has a story worth hearing. Sarah's voice cracked as she told me about her daughter Emma's leukemia, the medical bills that insurance wouldn't cover, the eviction notice on their apartment. Her job at the diner couldn't pay for both rent and Emma's treatments. We just need one more month, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. The doctors say Emma's responding well, but if we lose our home— That night, I couldn't sleep. Emma's face haunted me. This innocent child, whose only crime was getting sick, in a country that treated healthcare like a luxury. I knew what I had to do, but I also knew my family would never understand. The next morning, I transferred the entire $2.3 million to Sarah's account. All of it. When my father found out 3 days later, he went ballistic. I was in my apartment when my door nearly came off its hinges. He stormed in with Marcus and Victoria, his face purple with rage. "You did what?" His fist connected with my jaw before I could answer, sending me sprawling across my coffee table. Blood filled my mouth as I struggled to stand. "Dad, calm down!" Victoria grabbed his arm, but not to protect me, to protect him from assault charges. $2.3 million, Marcus shouted, his voice cracking with disbelief. "You gave away Grandpa's entire fortune to some random homeless person." "She wasn't homeless," I spat, wiping blood from my lip. "She was a mother trying to save her daughter's life." My father's hand shot out again, this time gripping my throat. "You stupid, naive little boy. Do you have any idea what you've done? That money belonged to this family." "Grandpa left it to me," I gasped, prying at his fingers. "It was mine to do with as I wanted." The punch to my stomach doubled me over. As I gasped for air, my mother's voice cut through the chaos, cold and calculated. "It's done, Richard. The money's gone." She looked at me like I was something she'd scrape off her shoe. "You're no longer our son." "Get out!" my father growled. "Get out of this apartment. Get out of our lives. You're dead to us." But the physical assault was nothing compared to what came next. Within hours, I was completely cut off. Credit cards canceled, bank accounts frozen, phone service terminated. They evicted me from the apartment, which they owned. They called every contact I had, poisoning them against me with stories of my mental breakdown. The worst part wasn't losing the money or the comfort. It was losing the people I thought were my family. For 3 hellish months, I lived in my car, then shelters, taking whatever jobs I could find. My siblings would drive past me on the street and pretend not to see me. Former friends crossed the street to avoid me. I lay awake at night, wondering if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. Had I destroyed everything for a stranger who might have just taken the money and run? Had my idealism finally gone too far? The isolation nearly broke me, but every time I thought about giving up, I remembered Emma's innocent smile and Sarah's desperate tears. I'd rather be homeless, with a clear conscience, than rich with a rotten soul. I just prayed I was right about Sarah, because there was no going back now. 3 years passed like a lifetime. 3 years of minimum wage jobs, shared apartments with questionable roommates, and ramen noodles for dinner. But something beautiful happened in that struggle. I found myself, the real me, not the privileged puppet my family tried to create. I worked construction, waited tables, cleaned offices at night. My hands became calloused, my back ached daily, but my spirit felt lighter than it had in years. I made friends who valued loyalty over bank accounts, who treated me like family just because I showed up consistently and cared about them. Then one morning, scrolling through news on my cracked phone screen, I saw her face. Sarah. But she wasn't holding a cardboard sign anymore. She was standing behind a podium, wearing a business suit, with the headline, "Local Woman's Nonprofit Raises $50 million for Children's Medical Care." My heart nearly stopped. I read every word of that article twice. Sarah had used my money to start a foundation called Emma's Hope. She'd built it into a massive organization, providing free medical care to uninsured children across the country. The article mentioned her anonymous initial donor, whose generosity had made it all possible. I found her office address and stood outside for an hour, building courage. When I finally walked in, she didn't recognize me at first. I was leaner, tanned from outdoor work, wearing jeans and work boots instead of designer clothes. "Can I help you?" she asked politely. "You saved my life once," I said quietly. "In a coffee shop 3 years ago." Her face went white, then crumpled as tears spilled down her cheeks. "Jayden? Oh my God, Jayden." She threw her arms around me, sobbing into my shoulder. "I looked for you for months. I tried to pay you back, to thank you, but nobody knew where you went. Your family said you'd moved away permanently." "They disowned me," I admitted, "for giving you the money." "Disowned you?" She pulled back, eyes blazing with fury. "You saved Emma's life. You saved hundreds of children's lives. How could they—" She stopped herself, seeing the pain in my eyes. Emma appeared in the doorway, now 9, healthy, full of life. She didn't remember me, but when Sarah explained who I was, this little girl hugged me so tight I almost cried. "You're the reason I'm alive," she whispered. "Mommy told me about you." Sarah offered me a position as Director of Operations, a 6-figure salary, and something more valuable than money: purpose. For the first time in years, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. But the best part? My family had no idea. They'd cut me off so completely they didn't even know I was still in town. As far as they knew, I was probably dead in a ditch somewhere. That misconception was about to cost them everything. The poetic justice of it all still makes me smile. My family's business empire, built on greed and exploitation, finally collapsed under its own weight. Bad investments, ethical scandals, employees suing for wrongful termination. Karma came for them like a freight train. It was a Friday afternoon when they showed up at Emma's Hope headquarters. I watched through the security cameras as they approached our modern glass building, clearly desperate. My father looked aged beyond his years. My mother's designer clothes couldn't hide the desperation in their eyes, and my siblings looked like they hadn't slept in weeks. I buzzed Sarah. "My family's here. They don't know I work here." "What do you want to do?" she asked. "Let them come up, but don't tell them who I am yet." I ducked into a side office and watched through the glass partition as they were ushered into Sarah's office. My father's voice carried clearly. Apparently, desperation had made him forget his inside voice. "Ms. Martinez, we need your help. We heard your organization helps families in financial crisis." Sarah, God bless her, played it perfectly. "I see. And what kind of help are you looking for?" "Financial assistance," my mother said, her pride clearly choking her. "Our business failed. We've lost everything. We have nowhere else to turn." "I see." Sarah nodded sympathetically. "And you've tried other avenues?" "Everyone," Marcus said bitterly. "Banks, investors, even our own customers turned their backs on us." "Family?" Sarah asked innocently. "No family to help?" Victoria's face twisted with anger. "We had a son once. Ungrateful little brat gave away millions to strangers instead of helping his own family. He's probably dead by now." That was my cue. I walked into the office and the silence was deafening. 5 seconds passed. 10, 15. Their faces went through a spectrum of emotions: shock, recognition, fear, and then rage. "Hello, family," I said calmly. My father shot to his feet so fast his chair fell backward. "You! What the hell are you doing here?" "I work here," I said simply. "I'm the Director of Operations. This is my office building." The color drained from my mother's face. "That's impossible. You were homeless. You were nothing." "I was," I agreed. "Thanks to you. But Sarah here?" I gestured to her. "She's the woman I gave Grandpa's money to. The stranger you cut me off for helping." Marcus's jaw dropped. "You're kidding." "Emma's Hope has helped over 10,000 children get medical care," Sarah said, standing beside me. Jayden's donation started it all. He didn't just save one little girl, he saved thousands. And now, I continued, you're here begging for help from the very organization you mocked me for supporting. My father's fist clenched. You planned this. I didn't plan anything, I said. I just gave money to someone who needed it more than I did. The fact that it turned into this? That's karma. Please, my mother said, her voice breaking, we're family. You have to help us. Family? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You disowned me. You told me I was dead to you. You let me be homeless rather than apologize. We'll help you, Sarah interrupted, looking at them. But you have to meet our conditions. Hope flickered in their eyes. You'll work for us, I said. Minimum wage, 40 hours a week. You'll serve in our soup kitchens, clean our medical facilities, do actual work helping people you once considered beneath you. This is ridiculous, Victoria spat. Those are the terms, Sarah said firmly. Take them or leave them. My father looked like he wanted to hit me again, but this time I didn't flinch. I wasn't the scared young man he'd slapped around anymore. 1 year, I added, live like the people you stepped on. Learn what real value means. Then we'll talk about a loan to help you restart. But this time, you'll run a business that actually helps people, not just yourselves. The pride in their eyes warred with desperation. Desperation won. Fine, my father growled through gritted teeth. 6 months later, I watched my father serve Christmas dinner at our homeless shelter. My mother was in the kitchen, washing dishes with a genuine smile, the first real smile I'd seen from her in years. Marcus and Victoria had both broken down, crying, while working with sick children, finally understanding what I'd tried to tell them all along. Money means nothing if you can't sleep at night. Family means nothing if it's built on conditions and control. But compassion, purpose, making the world better than you found it, that's worth everything. My grandfather would be proud. I used his money exactly as he hoped I would, not to make myself richer, but to discover what true wealth really means. And in the end, I got my family back too, just not the way any of us expected. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well and helping others do the same.